Then the loan goes through the process. Then the underwriter or the processor finds out, okay, you don't qualify. Now it's a dead deal. We know up front because our loan officers go through by far the most training of any company I know. We're actually setting up more training for them as we speak.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews.
Hello and welcome back to the My Future Business Show. My name's Rick Nusky. It's wonderful to have you back. And if this is your very first time on the show, welcome. I know you're in for a treat, especially today, because on today's show I have the pleasure of welcoming founder and CEO of Stratton Equities, Mr. Mikhail. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Good, thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Now, you and I are going to be talking about a number of different topics, including entrepreneurialism, mortgage lending, commercial real estate, lending and loans processes, and the story behind Stratton Equities and how it's fast becoming a household name for property investors. Now, before we do any of that, Michael, I'm wondering if you could just share where you're calling in from today.
Pinebrook, New Jersey, about 30 minutes west of New York City.
Fantastic. Is that home for you?
I'm east a little bit, but yeah, pretty much in that area.
Excellent. And we always go ahead.
Even though I did live in Sydney for about 13 months.
Oh wow! How did you find that?
It was interesting. I lived in Maroubra Beach and I lived in Zetland.
Yes.
2015 to 16. I was there with an ex-girlfriend of mine. We actually she's Australian. We actually moved there from Dubai. Mm-hmm. It was the best thing is you guys have the best damn coffee.
I would have to agree with that.
I mean, they get you in the airport with that coffee, man.
Hey, tell me something. Given that it was a Sydney experience for you, did you happen to stumble across the famous funnel web spider at all?
We did see. I don't know. I mean, I know. No, we saw the huntsman. I think.
Yes, that's one of them.
I don't think I saw the funnel web,
Lucky.
But definitely want to stay the hell away from them. But we actually, when we lived in Maroubra, we're actually backed up to a big park, and with a lot of snakes and a lot of crazy stuff. My biggest thing was I didn't want to cross the box jellyfish.
Oh no, absolutely not.
That I did it because I used to be a big swimmer. So that was a big fear of mine. So, well, no, it was fun. It was over 13 months. It was interesting.
You got to certainly keep your eyes open in Australia. That's for sure and certain, Michael. Now, when you were growing up, where did you live?
I grew up between Beirut, Lebanon, and New Jersey and Florida. So it was kind of bouncing around.
Wow. What could you tell us about your childhood upbringing? It was obviously you're moving around a fair bit. Did you enjoy it?
No, I had a horrible childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Which actually, you know what? I talk a lot about. So I study billionaires, and I have a lot of extremely successful friends, and I study people that their backstory, because when you see an Elon Musk or you see or whoever, people only see the end result.
Yeah.
Nobody sees the backstory. And I've said this for years, but I say it even more now. If you look at people that are super successful, most of them were bad in school. Mm-hmm. Most of them were something ADHD, dyslexia, something of which I have both.
Right.
Most of them had very rough childhoods.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at the story of Tony Robbins had a horrible childhood.
Oh yeah.
He was also homeless. He was down to his last $6 multiple times, and now he's worth almost $1 billion. So if you look at most people's stories that become very successful, Elon Musk was eating hot dogs for $1 a day.
Yeah.
So they had a very rough childhood, very rough upbringing. When I was growing up, I had extremely wealthy cousins from their father, obviously, and they had everything. And I couldn't even begin to tell you the lives they lived. When I was growing up, in the 80s and 90s, I obviously envied that, because who wouldn't? Because you don't know any different when you're at that age. But as I grew up, they all amounted to nothing. They're all lazy bums. They all live off their dad's money in their 40s.
Yeah.
And I'm much happier that I had a very rough childhood and a very rough upbringing, but to where I am now, and I would have never became who I became if I had been fed by a silver spoon.
Yes, that's wonderful feedback. I love this because it's really formative, those early years. And there's a lot of people on today's call who take a lot of value away from the entrepreneurial experience, which I know you love talking about. So what do you think, in those early days really was the catalyst for your drive that you have today?
Well, again, I had a really horrible upbringing. The only person that really believed in me was my mother. I had no support from anybody, never got $1 from anybody, never had anything easy. So I never had anything easy. I don't know what it's like to just have something. I mean, now I kind of do a little more, but growing up, I didn't know what it was like to have everything easy. I'm not even going to get into all the schematics of it, but it was definitely very, very hard. I mean, I have family members today I haven't talked to in 15 years, and I'll never talk to them again. When me and you are done, we're done. But wanting a better life, wanting to be successful, wanting, it's not good to say, but material items that I never could begin to imagine, when I was younger in those days. But also I've always been an entrepreneur. I'm Lebanese, and I don't know any Lebanese person that, that's not an entrepreneur in one way or another. As you know, you're in Sydney, there's a lot of them, and most of them are in real estate. But when I was 15 years old, I remember I used to, this is before, things got as strict as they are. I used to, 15, 16 years old, teachers and students, parents would bring knives to school, literally give me knives. And I would take knives home and sharpen them at 15 cents a knife and bring buckets of knives and chisels and swords and axes and lawnmower blades. I had to bring them to school. This was the mid 90s. Obviously, you couldn't do that today.
No.
And I was making, decent money, and I enjoyed it, obviously. But I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always, it's just always been. I started a car wash when I was younger. I got into multiple types of businesses. The big thing is, you have to know how to scale. I didn't know how to scale a business. I didn't really know how to grow a business when I was in my teens or early 20s. I didn't know a lot of things at that time. But, again, failure. I love failure, right? Michael Jordan says it all the time of how much he failed to get to where he got, obviously, as one of the greatest in the world. And that's a big thing that I see with people is they're too scared to fail. They don't want to fail. Oh, I don't want to do this. Well, what got me to Stratton Equities was actually a vitamin company that I started after I came back to the States in 2000, very early 17. And the foundation of that company and the people that I met within starting that company, which didn't really work very well, those are people that kind of catapulted, and what I learned kind of catapulted, Stratton Equities to getting where it got. So people don't realize that everything is connected. Like one thing leads to another, which leads to another, which leads to another. And if you don't get on the road and do whatever you're doing, you're never even going to get on the road.
Yeah. I mean, this is basically, setting that goal, having that vision and sticking with it. Now, what do you say about risk? You obviously have been exposed to risk along the way, and, for others, fear may have held them back. But should you embrace all sorts of risk? Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I mean, again, I take very calculated risk. I don't, I've never borrowed money. This company has no debt. I own 100% of the company. I've never sold shares. I've never taken on external debt, even with COVID. We were shut down during COVID. 2020 was not a good year for us.
No.
We were shut down for most of the year. So we lost a lot of profit at that time. But I never took on any debt, So, risk at the time, I don't know if you know my full backstory, but I was homeless for 4 years. Stealing bags of almonds to eat and sleeping on floors.
Wow.
So, I had no choice. It had to work. And that's why, you see a lot of people, some people say, oh, have a plan B. Most people that are very successful will tell you not to have a plan B, because when you have a plan B, you don't give plan A 100%.
Is this about burning the boats?
Sorry?
Is this about, the analogy of burning the boats? If we're going to go in on this, we're going to go in 100%. There is no option.
100%. And that's why, I didn't have a plan B. I didn't have a plan, it was just make this work. And, I literally, focus. I mean, they've done numerous articles and interviews about me about focus and sacrifice. And that's where people just, they don't want to sacrifice. And most people don't want to sacrifice. They want to watch their sports, and they want to have their weekends, and they want to travel, and they want to wake up late. They want to sleep late. When I started this company, I was working 18 hours a day, 7 days a week for the first 2 years nonstop. I still wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning every day, but and I don't have to anymore, but I still do.
Still do.
It's just the way it is. That's just and I sleep very early. I sleep at 9 o'clock probably, and I'm up at 4. But I live extremely, even now where we are, the company 95% can operate on its own with our staff, who everybody's properly trained.
Yep.
But, I never slip. I'm always on top of everything. I'm always making sure everything's done correctly.
Yep.
I don't take vacations. I try to take a vacation once in a while to go to Florida for a couple of days, but, I'm completely engaged in the company while I'm still there. I try to go down, maybe once a month to get away. But, I'm more than willing to sacrifice, X amount of years from my life in my late 30s and 40s, and then, pretty much be set for the rest of my life.
Yeah, fantastic feedback. There's lots of people, again, on this call be loving what you're sharing, and I do appreciate it. Now, I'm wondering, do you suffer insomnia, and do you ever get those sparks in the middle of the night where you have to sit up straight in bed and go, wow, I've got a great idea and I have to act on it now?
It took me, I used to wake up, I am not exaggerating, at 12:45 in the morning.
Yep.
12:45 in the morning, and I was just up. Like, that was it.
Yep.
I was up. I would smoke cigars at like 1 o'clock in the morning. I would make coffee and watch. I don't watch TV, but just watch whatever just to kill time. And bored. One of the biggest tortures for me, I'm talking about Chinese water torture, is boredom. I cannot get bored.
Can't stand
I have to be operating. I have to be moving. I have to be doing something. I have to be thinking. If I get bored, shoot me. So, literally, when it was 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I've been in my office at 3:30 in the morning because I'm like, I can't take it anymore. Time goes by faster in my office for some reason than it does in my own house.
Yep.
So I come to work at like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning and kind of wait for the office to stroll in and get started. But yeah, no, I'm doing much better now. Thank God. I'm waking up between 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning.
That's good.
So I'm not, but it drove me crazy.
So tell me something, I like to talk about superpowers. We've all got one thing that we do really, really well. What do you think that one thing is for you, Michael?
Hyperfocus.
And what does that allow you to achieve, do you think?
Everything. I'm going to tell you the what I call the squirrel story. So I've done interviews about this. So when I was just starting, I was driving around, and late 2017. I got the concept of the company late 2017, which we'll get into that. Mm-hmm. And, had no idea where the company was going to go. I had no money. I had no credibility. I've been out of the country for 5 years. I literally cut everybody off when I left. I knew almost nobody when I got back. Had no idea where things were going to go, but I knew I wanted to start this company. So I borrowed. I didn't have any money. When I got back to the U.S., I had no credit. I had no bank account. I had no debit card. I had no credit card, and I had zero money. When I'm talking zero money, I had nothing. Like, my mom literally gave me a credit card where I would eat for like $8 to $10 a day, and then that was it. Like, maybe
buy self-made from the ground up.
That was it. So driving around, and I'd see squirrels. Here we have a lot of squirrels, and something just dawned on me where I'm like, an animal, let's use a squirrel,
yep,
accomplishes its goal because it only focuses on 4 things technically: food, water, shelter, mate. That's all really an animal's life is.
That's it.
So when you think about it, an animal has no help, it has no support, it has nothing. It's just on its own. But the reason why animals are successful is because they're not watching sports, and they're not going out, and they're not doing this, and they're not doing that.
Around.
They're waking up, sleeping, and they have 4 things in mind or 3 things in mind, and that's literally all they do. So it dawned upon me that if I do nothing else, now people don't understand the extent when I say nothing else. If I do nothing else besides focus on work, I will have a significantly better chance of accomplishing my goal, and I'll accomplish and Elon Musk talks about this a lot, and I'll accomplish my goal significantly faster. And that's the squirrel story. So when I started, did nothing. Like, I woke up, took a shower, had coffee, ate, and I didn't have an office. I had nothing. I would go to like a Starbucks or to a cigar shop whenever they opened up, and I would just sit there for 14 hours a day and just work nonstop, come home, sleep, do it again, do it again. Not 5 days a week, 7 days a week. And that was, I had no friends. I had no relationships with women. I didn't go out anywhere. I did nothing.
Nothing else but focus.
Nobody understands to the extent, like, so decision fatigue, which few people know about, is something that most of the billionaires do, and you know, Steve Jobs and Zuckerberg and all of them do. People don't wondered why, you know, Steve Jobs is worth tens of billions and he would wear the same clothes every day. Because it takes mental energy to focus on things that aren't making you money. I got to do my hair. I got to do this. I got to get dressed. What am I going to wear? This, people don't realize the human mind, you know, per 24 hours only has so much juice. So when you burn juice on something that is irrelevant, it's costing you money and it's not accomplishing your goal. So I didn't focus on what I was wearing. I didn't focus on anything. I literally got up, put no effort into it. Whatever I put on, I put on.
That was it.
Didn't do my hair, didn't shave, nothing, and just left the house.
Nothing.
Yep. I looked like a hobo, like nothing, and just left the house.
And
because it wasn't making me money. Like, it doesn't make me money.
Yep. And that's the thing, isn't it? You know, get the dollars through the door. And I love this whole rags to riches story and the journey that you are on, because I know a lot of people listen to this because they haven't walked the road and experienced the things that you have. Now, let's talk about Stratton Equities and how this actually came about. And let's deep dive into, I guess, the services that you're providing your clients.
I'm actually going to tell you something before we get into that, part of this story has to do with an Australian. So when I was in Australia, I actually met a lot of people. And I met, and you're going to know who I'm talking about when I say the story. So I met a gentleman, and he was worth, I don't know, 3 or 3.5 billion when I met him. And he owned a company just called Stratton. That was it. And Stratton is owned by Robert. I forgot his last name. I have him on my phone. And he started Stratton, which is a finance company in Australia, and he started financing cars in like in the middle of nowhere. And now Stratton is one of the largest auto financier company in all of Australia. And I always loved the name. And when I came back to the States, I always loved the name. It always stuck with me. And I'm sitting there in a cigar shop. It's early 2018, late 2017, and I don't know how I did it, by the way. I got 3 equity groups to back us up. No credit, no credibility. Didn't have a dollar to my name.
Wow.
You know, they put on a suit. You know, but I looked the part. Looked the part, which I guess was what worked. And I set up meetings with equity groups. One in Connecticut, one in New York, one in New Jersey, and they were our backers to lend, obviously, our money to our clients. And it was equity. So I put Stratton Equities, because they were equity groups, Stratton Equities together. But the name, the beginning part of the foundation of the name came from Rob and Stratton in Australia.
Ah, wow. That's a great story. Thank you very much for sharing. Now, I've been looking through all of the different elements, and there is certainly a lot to get through, much of which I don't understand. So one of those things which I wouldn't mind sharing with the audience is the question, which obviously comes up a lot, which is called hard money. What is that about?
Yeah, so you guys are very different with your laws and your banking laws in Australia. Hard money is a slang term, really. Hard money, where it started, was not institutionalized. Now it's institutionalized, and I'll get to that. So hard money was pretty much a guy that had a lot of money that wanted to lend it out on the street, and instead of going to a bank and doing the whole process and yada, 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 they would lend out short-term financing to just get your deal done. So if you're somebody that, you know, couldn't qualify at a bank, or you didn't, whatever the case may be, you know, it was more based on the asset and the profitability of the asset, and the equity in the asset than you. When you go to a bank, they want to know, why did you name your son John? You know what I'm saying? Like,
the details.
the questions they ask are ridiculous, and most times it makes absolutely no sense.
I agree.
So in what year was it? I was 19 years old. I don't know what year it was. But I bought my first investment property in Florida from a guy that was 60, 70 years old that was lending out, hard money. And my interest rate was 24%.
Wow.
So that's the way it was. And then what happened is, we all know we had the real estate boom in America from 2000 to 2008. Then we had the crash. Which is what it is. Mm-hmm. Then they extremely tightened the regulations with Obama and his guys, 2008, 9, 10, 11. I mean, they made it so difficult that nobody was able to get a loan for 2000. It was impossible. So due to that, this whole private lending world, they pretty much saw what all the guidelines and regulations were that they put into place, and very smart people found loopholes around them. But the kicker is, it's only for investment in commercial properties. So now it's kind of bleeding into owner occupied a little bit, but it's never going to be fully. So invest in commercial properties, which is all we do. We don't do what's called owner occupied, where you're living at home. The guidelines and the regulations are completely different for both. So it's for investment properties. And then money started to come from hedge funds and multi-billion-dollar insurance companies and et cetera, and then it got institutionalized, and then it got a lot more regulation to it between 2011, 12. That's really when it started to kick off, and then the rates obviously started to drop significantly. Recently our rates were as low as the 4s, which is ridiculous for what we do. And now they're creeping up because the Fed is increasing rates to, as they call it, hedge inflation. But yeah, that's the story in a nutshell of what it is.
That's fantastic. Now, I know that from an operational standpoint, you've turned dyslexia into an asset. Can you tell us how you did that and what it means to the way you run your business, please?
Sure. So the way it works, and I don't agree with that at all and it's wrong, is you get these mortgage people, which we call them brokers, and they're wherever they are in the country. And some client comes to them and says, I'm looking for ABC loan, and they don't have the product. When you think about mortgage products, think of cars. Mercedes, BMW, Rolls-Royce. If you work at a Mercedes dealership and somebody wants a BMW, well, you don't have a BMW. You work at Mercedes. So you have to then broker the deal out with a guy at BMW to say, hey, I got the client, you got the BMW, let's do the deal, yada, yada, yada. So you get these people that think they can just send you an email and you're going to structure a loan, which is a horrible idea, because what happens is when people send you an email, they never tell you the whole deal. They always only tell you the good part about it. You understand, you can have 30 points in a deal, which is there's actually more, and one thing doesn't add up and your deal's dead. Or it doesn't work. So if somebody sends you an email with 5 characteristics or 5 points, you don't have any of the information you really need to determine can you do the deal or not. Besides the fact, I literally hire people to read for me. Like I have somebody that reads for me. So if it's a long paragraph, if it's very detailed, I just can't read it. Like I can read bullet points, but I can't read it just messes me up.
Yeah, I understand.
I used to get people on the phone. A lot of people didn't like it. Like, let me just send you an email. But first off, you're lazy. I'm not going to work with you because you don't put any effort into the deal. So it forced me to get people on the phone, to probe the deal, to ask the questions, to understand really what, the nuances of it, and if you can or cannot do the deal. But and that really helped me to have a higher conversion ratio, because I was really killing deals up front that were never going to move forward. Now, if you just took somebody's email and you're like, oh, okay, here's your deal now, you're going to be wasting time on a deal that's never going to work because you didn't ask 80% of the questions you need to know.
Yeah.
So now the whole company operates that way, where we don't do things via email. It's all done over the phone. I mean, obviously we do things via email, but we don't structure loans via email. If somebody wants to talk about a loan, it goes on the phone. Our sales team, our loan officers talk to them. They have a full condition sheet, which is a scenario sheet, which is already planned out for them, which they go line by line by line. Because by the time they get to the end of the scenario sheet, that tells them if the deal is doable, if it's not doable, what program you're going to go with, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So tell us what type of client is best suited for Stratton Equities.
So again, we only do investment in commercial properties. We work with
Small,
seasoned.
medium?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So here's a big thing also, which I want to talk about. Big deals never close. So when somebody comes to a $30 million deal and a $50 million deal, I mean, we got $1 billion deals, which is insanity. They never close, because when somebody is qualified for $100 million, when somebody is qualified for $50 million, they don't shop around. They have people throwing. I mean, it's a Donald Trump. It's an Elon Musk. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
People have money being thrown at them daily. So you're not going to go to some guy or shop online if you're somebody that's going to qualify for $50, $100 million or anything even near that. So, the people that do are never going to qualify, and they have no money and they have no credit, and it's just a pipe dream.
Yeah.
So, so we don't do really large deals. We generally stick below 5 million. Our sweet spot is $250,000 to $3 million. But we do. The largest deal we ever did, which I did it in 2018, was 8.5 million. That was the largest deal the company ever did. But that also helps us with moving things along faster, because we're not wasting time. I mean, you get these people that get a 10, 20, $30 million deal, and all they see is dollar signs.
Yeah.
So what they do is they hold on to that deal. They spend all day and night shopping it around to every outlet known to man. The deal, realistically, because they don't know how to structure a loan, is never going to close, and they barely even have the borrower on the hook. And instead of focusing on deals with the time they have that's going to actually close and make the money, they're sitting there holding this deal around, which is never going to close.
Yeah, wow. And it's really useful for you and obviously your team and your sales crew to know the types of deals that you can look away from, and it's fantastic. Now, when somebody wants to, I guess, connect with you and work with you, what is the vetting process, and how do you go through that?
Well, I mean, we are a lead-based mortgage company. So we do not knock on doors. We don't find business like our sales team, which every other mortgage company, part of your job as a loan officer is to go out and hunt out business and knock on doors, meet realtors, which is a complete headache. So with us, one of the things I learned how to do very well is push the marketing. So we push the marketing, and which actually we've dialed back on it because we're getting too many leads. And
it's a good problem to have.
It is a good problem to have. So we get too many leads, so we have to dial it back. But yeah, people pretty much go to the website, StrattonEquities.com, where they call into the 800 number, they email us, and our website is designed to intake, leads. When the lead goes in and somebody fills out a lead form, it goes into our system, and we have systems in the back end, and then they get a call from the sales team, and then they go through the process.
This has been a very useful call for anybody who's in this, in this field and looking to get an investment loan of this sort. Now, I know that there's a lot of different products that you've had created or created yourself. Can you maybe run us through some of your major ones?
Well, the soft money, which I coined, is one of our best programs. So the way it works is you have what's called conventional financing, which is a bank loan. You go to a bank, whatever, conventional financing. Conventional financing is not, they don't like investment properties. They don't like investors. Right. Not conducive for it at all. They like cookie cutter, vanilla, what's called owner-occupied deals.
Yep.
Problem is, most people just know, I want a loan, go to a bank. Go to a credit union, go to whatever, and that's the wrong place to go. And I'll tell you, so in the guidelines, if you're buying, let's just say a 1 to 4 family home investment property, I shouldn't have said home, investment property, the guidelines are max at 70% LTV. So 70% of the property purchase price or value is what's going to be lent on. In the soft money world, we potentially can go to 80 or 85 LTV. So if you're a new investor, which most new investors are limited on cash, you'd obviously much rather put down 15% or 20% than put down 30%. That's number one. So the loan to value is higher on our programs. Plus, we don't look at tax returns and income docs. So we're not looking. The property is, when you have an investment property, the property is supposed to be paid for by the rental. What do I care how much money you're making? When you live in a home, right, your income is, because you can't rent it legally, your income is paying for the mortgage. So obviously it makes common sense that you're going to look at somebody's income because their income is going to be paying for this mortgage because they're living in the home.
Yeah.
When it's investment property, commercial property, a multifamily property, it's supposed to be rented out. So you're looking at the rentals and the cash flow analysis, and you're looking at the fact that, is this going to get rented? How fast can it get rented? When it does get rented, what are the rental comps in the area? What is it going to rent for? So we don't look at the income docs on a borrower because, again, it doesn't matter. We're looking at the property cash flowing because you're not supposed to be paying for an investment property out of your own pocket.
Yeah, wow. Again, this is great insight. You know, these are the sorts of things you can't buy experience, can you, Michael? You've got to have done this sort of work and know the process. And I think this is part of the benefit of coming to a professional like you. Now, tell us a little bit about the relationship side of things. Is this more just a transactional experience for your clients, or is there a longer term type of commitment from Stratton Equities?
No, we work with a lot of people long term because, you know, we treat people very well. We have programs that literally don't exist in the marketplace. Mm-hmm. So people, unfortunately or fortunately, whatever you want to call it, come back, and they have to come back. Obviously, we treat them very well. Yeah. We're very familiar with everything. And the big thing is, you know, we tell people up front if it's going to go forward or not. What most people do in the industry, which I completely don't agree with, even if you go to any bank or anything, they do it. They just say, yeah, apply. They have no idea if the loan's going to go through. They have no idea if you're going to qualify. So they end up wasting your time, wasting their company's time, wasting everybody's time, you know, applying for a loan. And you know, because they don't know how to qualify up front, then the loan goes through the process. Then the underwriter or the processor finds out, okay, you don't qualify. Now it's a dead deal. Yeah. So we know up front, because our loan officers, a big thing, which I didn't talk about, go through by far the most training of any company I know. We're actually setting up more training for them as we speak, constantly pushing on the training and pushing on the education and pushing on the knowledge so that they're better informed, so they can better work with clients. So we know within the first phone call, 99% if this is going to qualify for one of our loans or not. We're not going to tell you, just put an application through, let's go through the whole entire process and then find out. Let's just see what happens. You know, so actually, if a loan even has a 30% or a 40% chance, we don't even. I mean, everybody would take on a loan that has a 40% chance of closing. We won't take it on.
Yeah, fantastic feedback. I'm loving this call. Thank you very much. Now, if people want to again find you, is your website the only place that you can be found?
No, we're all over the internet, but I mean, the best place is obviously the website, which is strattonequities.com. Everything is there. All the contact information is there. Unfortunately, we don't do loans in Australia, even though we get contacted for that all the time. We get contacted from every country you can imagine. India, Papua New Guinea, you know, London, you know, the UK, everywhere. We get people, and unfortunately, we don't do loans in those countries.
Well, that's fortunate because the majority of our listeners and audience are based in the States.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. So strattonequities.com is where you can find us. All the contact information is there. You know, we're always we have a full sales team that's in the office. They're actually in the office right now.
Fantastic.
And so they're available, you know, most of the day.
Now, I know that the day is just ramping up for you and anybody who's on this call right now. I hope you've had your ears open and taken down some notes. And if you want to learn more, you visit strattonequities.com. I'll be making sure that the link back to Michael and his wonderful team and all of the additional information that you can find directly from the website is available for you. And with all that being said, Michael, thank you so very much for spending some time with me on the My Future Business Show today.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.